Good morning. I'd like to call to order our TPA Governing Board meeting for Thursday, October 31st, 2024. If we could please call roll to establish our quorum.
At this time, I'm only asking those board members attending in person to respond with here when I call your name. Alternates, please state your name if you're representing a TPA board representative. As a reminder, please press your microphone button twice to turn on and off. Steve Wilson,
Here.
Yvette Drucker,
Here.
Fran Nacklis, Angela Cruz is absent. Rob Long,
Here.
Chuck Shaw, Jim Koretsky,
Here.
Ronaldo Diaz,
Here.
Joni Brinkman is absent. DeAndre Poole,
Here.
Greg Wise,
Here.
Marcy Woodward,
Here.
Sarah Baxter, Mac Bernard,
Here.
Glenn Spiritus, Jeff Hamara is absent. Michael Napoleon, Christy Fox, Joseph Pazuzzi,
Christina Lambert, here.
Maria Marino, Chelsea Reed.
I'm here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Additionally, I have the following members asking to participate remotely due to extenuating circumstances. Maria Marino, Palm Beach County Vice Mayor, is requesting to participate remotely. Michael Napoleon, Village of Wellington Mayor, is requesting to participate remotely.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any objection to these two board members joining remotely? All right, great. Do we need to do another call to see if they're there?
No, they're
Okay.
online. Thank
All right,
you.
wonderful. Let's go ahead, and if you would join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so do we have any modifications to our agenda today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, so since we have none, I'm seeking a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, if you could state your, okay, two things, I apologize. Number one, for the microphones today, take a moment, try to push 2 times before you speak. And then if you're going to pass a motion, please state your name when you pass. So again, motion in a second, please.
So moved, Yvette Drucker.
And I'm looking for a second.
Second, Greg Wise.
Awesome, great, thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move right along. Do we have any public comments today to
No,
start
Madam
off?
Chair.
Excellent. So we are going to start with a picture before everyone gets too comfortable. It is TPA Florida Monthly, the TPA is celebrating Florida Mobility Week proclamation. So we do have a beautiful proclamation here for Mobility Week, and we're going to take a photograph with it as well as encourage everybody to make sure they're adopting that. Do you have anything you want to add? No? All right. If you guys could join me for a photograph, we'd really appreciate it.
Michael and I are there in spirit.
Just Photoshop us in.
And you can do me with my 1950s Bobby Soxer costume on.
Should I mute her? Should I mute her? I think it's Maria Marino in the back. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, great. All right, so while Carly starts. Right.
I did. Okay, thank you. It was lit up. We'll get through it. So nonetheless, before we dig in, we do have a moment for comments from the chair and member comments. Usually I ask you guys to please go first, as the chair should always speak last. But today I just want to take a moment to recognize Commissioner Mac Bernard. We want to thank you so much for your service. Unfortunately, it's bittersweet. This is your last meeting here with the TPA. You've been a part of the TPA for 8 years, off and on as an alternate and on the board. And we really, really appreciate your service, your time, your vision, your voice, and we're so thankful to have served with you. So if everyone could please join me in thanking Commissioner Bernard. Speech?
No real speech, but I'm not an expert in transportation, but it's always great to hear the voices of the experts who enjoy transportation. When I get to listen to Valerie Nilsson to talk about transportation, it's like, wow. But Mayor Reed, Mayor Koretsky, it's just always great to hear the people who love transportation, and Commissioner Woodward and Vice Mayor Marino. So look forward to us adopting a countywide transportation plan, and then of course to see what the future holds in terms of us creating a dedicated funding source to address our transportation needs in the future of Palm Beach County. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We appreciate your words as well. Do any of our board members have anything they'd like to discuss that is not on the agenda? I see a couple of cards. We have Mayor Koretsky, and then after that, we have Commissioner Poole.
Yeah, good morning. I just wanted to make a couple quick comments with regard to the 2050 long-range transportation plan that's under development. I think it comes back to us next meeting for approval. And I got a letter yesterday that initially alarmed me a little bit. Our staff has followed up because it was another government it appeared to take issue with the road in the town of Jupiter. I've since found out that wasn't the intent. But I just want to say, for at least the last 2 decades, the town has had the pleasure of working very closely with county engineering on road planning. And I'm grateful for that. And it starts with identifying where hotspots are. So I'd worked with TPA staff and had asked to make sure, like we did last time, we were including the county's perspective of where we needed to do some road improvements. So I think that others may have different opinions about that now, but I submit that awareness of where the hotspots are is significant if you're talking about mobility planning to 2050. And I just want to use, by example, the one that appeared to be an objection to was Center Street in Jupiter. Center Street is a 2-lane road. For those that probably don't know, Center Street was the first Crawls designated roadway in the county. Crawls stood for constrained roadway at lower level of service. And so the process worked where this is back really where growth management was more being practiced, was that when it was identified that there was a roadway that couldn't meet level of service, governments could decide to designate it as a lower level of service, but it was a conscious decision as opposed to not being aware about it. So I think that's very important. So we made that conscious decision with the county years ago, but we have a 2-lane road. It's got enough right of way to become a 3-lane road, and that's been in the plan for a number of years. The benefit of the 3-lane road is it adds a turn lane, which when a road is way over capacity, the turn lane is a safety feature. It's not going to, and while that project happens, we have intentions of working with the county to make sure that, and we'll provide the incremental funding to make sure that it's done right. But I just want to use that one as an example, so that the county has been working on that for a number of years. And I just wanted to share that everybody, you'd rather know the county's perspective of a road that's going to be over capacity. And then you can make that decision if you want to live in gridlock because you think there's a reason for that. And we did, that's where we designated constrained road, crawls designated roadways, but you still constantly are always thinking about on those roads is something we can do to improve it. We're finally doing that. I just want to make sure on the record, and I understand from the staff of the other government that it wasn't their intention, although it appeared that way in a letter that we all got. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody getting that understands, because I believe Center Street needs to be in the plan. I know it's not funded by the TPA funding sources, but the 2045 plan was the first time that we really did a more total integrated plan that included the county and local. And I think it was a better plan that way. So I just wanted to have stated that so that we don't make too much changes between now and when it comes back to us. But thank you.
Yes, please, Valerie.
Thank you, Mayor. And we do have it's not an action item, but a draft LRTP later on the agenda because it's out now. And we appreciate the feedback and all the collaborations that's gone into this plan. The long range transportation plan, it is one of our grant deliverables that's required by the federal government and the state for us to update it every 5 years. It sets the vision and priorities for the TPA and the state and federal funding. So we'll hear about it later, but we have a cost feasible list of what we think we will be able to have money for, TPA, state, federal, illustrative list, things that are priorities that other things need to happen. And then there's this other local desires, which are not necessarily things that we have a say over. We don't have authority over whether a city or a county builds something on their own roadway. However, to Mayor Koretsky's point, we're trying to find a way to be transparent on the feedback and the things that were received, but also transparent that these are not yet TPA supported or vetted projects. So everyone knows that these are things that we heard from the local roadway owners of what they want to do. However, they're not necessarily our plan or our priorities or things that we have a say over. So we're trying to find a way. We were talking to FDOT actually this morning, and we'll be talking with FHWA on how to best handle this, because this does happen in other places. How do you be transparent on other things that are happening that you don't have any authority over? However, you want people to know that these are things that you received, and we may end up putting this list as an appendix, clearly stating these are other local desires not yet vetted or supported by the TPA, but FYI, these are things that we heard from locals, not part of LRTP MPO process, but local things that are in people's desires that we heard. So we're going to navigate through that and see what's the best way to be clear on both ends, but also transparent. And we'll hear more about this under draft. So
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you so much, Mayor Koretsky, for your comment, and Ms. Nielsen for your follow-up, and we will get more understanding and clarity. Next, we have Commissioner Poole, and then after that, we'll have Deputy Mayor Drucker, and then after that, we'll have Commissioner Weiss. And then Woodward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Madam Chair, I just want to say that on yesterday, I participated in a visit to the Miami Intermodal Center, and it was very enriching experience. And, it certainly speaks to our need for a countywide transportation plan. So I know we're moving in that direction, but it was really good to see how our partner counties are operating in terms of their advancements and working to address congestion and so many other issues, air quality and safety issues. So I think the future is, pretty positive. We can all work together to make that happen here in Palm Beach County. And also want to, of course, thank Mr. David Deck for Tri-Rail for hosting us and showing us and, really giving us a lesson as we drove not drove, but we rode the train down to Miami and back. And certainly to Valerie for working to set that up, and then to our local MPA organizations who are hosting as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. It was a great day. So we have Deputy Drucker and then Commissioner Weiss. Oh.
Okay, here we go. All right. So just wanted to share a little bit of information from the city of Boca Raton that came out last week. So I'm really excited. Last week, we did our Vision Zero kickoff for our action plan. The city hired Kimberly Horn to do our consultant action plan for Vision Zero. As you all are aware, we received an initial $300,000 Save Street for All grant, and then we received a $4 million Save Streets for All grant, which we're really, really excited. So I wanted to thank not only the council, but also the staff that's worked very diligently. And I know that the TPA has also been a part of our journey to hope to attain Vision Zero and continue to provide public safety for our community. And we also adopted our Mobility Week proclamation last week. So just wanted to give you a couple updates on what's going on in Boca.
All right, thank you so much, Commissioner Weiss and then Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. Just wanted to share with you an update, some information. I don't know if anybody noticed, traffic may be a little challenging at times around this area. And that a lot of that is due to the closure of Southern Boulevard over the bridge. And so my office, Town of Palm Beach has done a wonderful job about alerting residents and businesses when the closures are going to happen. Unfortunately, I think we can do a better job. So I've been working with our engineering department to get signage put out on the roadways, for them to work with FDOT to get it put up on the signs on 95. So at least our drivers can be prepared and know that there's a closure and modify as needed. But you know, obviously it's been a challenge and will continue to be a challenge as we have these closures, but we're doing our best to try and inform the public and keep everybody safe and moving along. Thank you.
Commissioner, I must say you always do a great job letting the public know. So thank you for that. And us too. All right, Commissioner Woodward, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wow. Okay, I'm here. I just wanted to reiterate from Commissioner Poole on the trip that we had yesterday down to Miami's rental car facility, the People Mover, the Mia Mover. I didn't know they called it that. I call it People Mover, but I like Mia better. It was very good for us. I know Laura Beebe, I don't know if she's here today. She's our Director of Airports, because PBI is undergoing a number of renovations, expansions, and some future changes. One being Belvedere Road is going to relocate all of the rental cars, different facilities into a single place. And we actually own most of that land. We're going to acquire more of it. It was interesting to hear the city or county, I think, of Miami was the one that started this process back in the late 80s, early 90s. And they had to acquire much of the land to do what they did. We're actually a little bit ahead of the game because we own most of that and we have future plans to get the rest of it on Belvedere. So a lot of what they, years that took them to do that, we're already ahead of that. We have a number of years to go on other projects, but us in the future having a type of people mover connecting to Tri-Rail and having, I know Dave Deck here he's with us for the Miami airport. A lot of employees that work at that airport use Tri-Rail. So it's not just for travelers, although if you ever need to fly out of Miami, highly recommend you take Tri-Rail because it'll put you closer to it than an Uber. And we had people see that yesterday. And Laura Beebe, I've told her a number of times, but for her to walk in and really get the visual, it's good. But you know, they even mentioned as soon as that facility was opened, they saw an immediate 30% reduction of traffic all around that. And it's only gotten better since. Their air quality has gotten better. You're not having the big shuttle buses that go through. It's people are just going to their rental car instead of, you know, a lot of the extra traffic that was happening. So that was very, very good. I am the new chair of Tri-Rail. That happened last week. So the coming, thank you. So, but the coming year, there's a lot of conversations about what's happening in Miami-Dade with the Coastal Link that's coming up, and Broward is working, you know, they're working together on that. There's conversations for us to have here in Palm Beach County on getting that northern layover extension, and then maybe we start coming back down again. funding sources. There's a lot of future conversations to have, but I just want the residents to know that that meeting yesterday and all of the meetings that we're having, it's treating transportation more of the South Florida metro area. And although we are separate counties and, we go to Tallahassee and DC, a number of us went on the trip to Dallas to see how they work as a block when it comes to these big items. And for us, we are part of a huge metro area. And if we could really consolidate ourselves and go to Tallahassee or DC to ask for some big bucks, I think we could be successful. And there's conversations that were being had, on that train in different trips with these other entities where they're like, yeah, we're kind of fighting over crumbs. And we need to ask for bigger pieces of the pie because as a metro area, we're significant. And, it was promising for me. I do want to have a future trip to the port. We were already talking about that yesterday. So to see our port, but to also visit, Port Everglades or Port Miami to the south. So that was a fantastic trip. Thank you for that. I wanted to just say, if any of you can attend it, but we're going to have to do another one of those trips down to Miami. So my fellow Board of County Commissioners can see that as we move forward on what the vision is. But those projects we have voted as a board to do a lot of expansion for PBI and have the ability to talk to our peers to the south to kind of learn from some mistakes, some best practices, and maybe, make our process a little easier. So thank you for that. And that's all I wanted to say.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We have Commissioner Fox, and after that, I don't see any other cards up.
Thank you so much. We in the city of West Palm Beach, we're just starting to update our bicycle master plan. We're putting together a steering committee to include people not just from downtown, but from citywide so that all areas will be represented. I know that many of you in here are bike riders and you may be coming, even biking here today. I don't know. So I'd love to have all of your input. We are going to be having public meetings that will start between now and the beginning of 2025. We're hoping the planning will be done by next summer, but it will include public engagement, surveys, and trying to get as much input as we can to make sure that going forward that our bicycle lanes and every kind of facility that we have is actually something utilized. I live downtown and I'm scared to ride my bike on the green paint. So I'm hoping that in the future we can do something that is more protective. And I often see, Amazon drivers thinking the green paint is sort of optional. So anyway, I know this body is very involved in biking and I'd love to have all your input and any of your constituents that might also be coming to West Palm Beach. We just love to make sure that we're including everybody that uses our city. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. If I might add just two things. First off, I would encourage everybody that has the opportunity to join the TPA on any peer exchanges that they do. For example, what we did with the airport, because Dallas was great. We learned a lot. Going to Miami, though, we are doing apples to apples, right? So their MPOs and our TPA work together. We're all one traveling public. So I would definitely encourage you. I know it's great to go on these other trips. We learned a lot when we went to Austin a couple of years ago with the TPA, the county, and the Economic Council to learn about how they implemented a transportation surtax. There's nothing better than seeing what people did well and trying to replicate that and seeing what they did poorly and making sure we don't do that. However, doing it regionally here in the Southeast region, like we got to do yesterday, like the TPA gives us the opportunity to do several times a year, please come along because it will change your mindset and give you a deeper understanding. And you come back even more inspired, right? And then the last thing I will say, please keep in mind that we do collaborate a tremendous amount with the MPOs to our south. There's a group called CEFTEC, which is our Southeast Regional Florida Transportation Council. I actually get to vice chair that. So that is Miami-Dade, Broward, and our MPOs. We meet every quarter, and we have an entire regional plan that is replicable of what we have here, which integrates their plans as well. So they're on the same timeline that we are for the funding, for the regional funding. So for example, at our last meeting, we passed a request to FDOT to do a study, a multimodal corridor study on US 27 to put rail on US 27 out west because Miami-Dade is sending a tremendous amount of things that they can't get. They're having a problem with their waste. We have a tremendous amount of things coming out of our different ports that could do well to transition on US 27, which is a whole nother rail, but that also opens up commuter rail and passenger rail on our lines that are further east. So there's a lot going on beyond what we just see here And so we'll make sure we keep you guys abreast as what's happening at CEF as well. Anyway, so just had to share that and we'll move on to our executive director's report.
Great. Thank you so much. I want to also echo the chair and the board's comments and thank Commissioner McBernard for his service as a county commissioner for 8 years and on this board and for your leadership. We will miss you, but hopefully continue working in different capacities. So, and thank you to our board members who participated in our site visit. We have, as part of our strategic plan, we have 3 more to go, which one of them, thanks to this site visit, was inspired to now coordinate with the Port of Miami and the Miami-Dade TPO for a site visit hopefully on the Tri-Rail Express train downtown that's now running to downtown Miami. So we'll keep you apprised, but we have more site visits planned in the next few months. So thank you to Chair Reed, Commissioner Poole, and Commissioner Woodward, who joined us yesterday for that, and to Dave Deck for providing a smooth ride on Tri-Rail. And Laura Beebe also. So we're excited about those conversations and those collaborations. I also want to just echo in terms of, so this MPO, we do have a regional body with Broward and Miami for prioritizing and attracting regional funds. That is the Southeast Florida Transportation Council. It consists of the 3 chairs of each MPOs, and we're federally required to do a regional transportation plan. It's a long-term plan. It's updated. It prioritizes regional and state funds, and it's being updated currently, looking for input, and will be adopted next year at SAFTech. So just to give you an example, I mean, we've been trying, obviously, as an MPO, and we can only prioritize so much for capital. We've prioritized over 47 million to SFRTA for a Northern Layover facility that should be in the works soon. The crossover, we've been putting things in place so that when there is a local funding source, when the county does have a transportation plan and local funding source to run more service, those pieces are in place. Also regionally with FDOT District 4, coming up soon, there's a $4 million RFP for DOT to be updating the Coastal Link study for District 4 in Broward and Palm Beach for what was done 10 years ago for feasibility costs. Are the stations still the same priority, so that is ready to go when there's a local funding source to engage in those conversations. So just want everyone to know we are working very collaboratively and as a regional body as far as the MPOs go. If you didn't see the news, at Miami-Dade County just got another $400 million grant from FTA and the North Corridor approved. So that's technically the Tri-Rail Coastal Link in Miami-Dade County. So huge news. That's in addition to the $265 million grant they received also from FTA. So they are moving forward. They have funding to run operations. So they're moving the pieces forward. And to Mayor Reed's comment about SAFTech, yes, at the last meeting, we passed a resolution formally requesting FDOT to restart a multimodal feasibility study for US 27 rail that would explore that. It's been studied in the past, but prioritizing that again to explore the possibility of that and shifting rail freight onto that corridor, which would help the Glades, and it would also help our FEC line to alleviate freight if that were to happen in the future. So just want to reiterate that we didn't get to talk about it too much in the opportunity and on this Dallas trip. It was a great trip. We participated with the Economic Council, but at least on the MPO side, we do work very closely. Back to my director's report, wanted to first kick off and congratulate Mayor Reed. We have an award for her. It's not from us, but it's from the Florida Commission for Transportation Disadvantage Award. She was actually at the National MPO Conference when this was announced, so they gave it to us to give to her. So Chair Reed serves also as the chair of our Transportation Disadvantage Local Courting Board. That's a countywide body, but we serve as the liaison to facilitate that board. And she's done a tremendous job. And so at the state level, she was recognized. So just want to congratulate you and provide you this award. So. If you want to say a few words or not, but not, go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Hi. This is great. This is actually because we have an amazing transportation disadvantage board. And also Palm Tran Connect, their leader Lou Ferry does a beautiful job making sure that every single person who rides Palm Tran Connect is treated with respect and love. And if you guys are ever looking for something to make you feel good about transportation in the county, I highly recommend you join us one time. You can ride as a secret rider on Palm Tran Connect and actually watch people get picked up, go to their homes to help them get into the buses. They go to work, they go to doctor's appointments, they go to dialysis, and this is an extraordinary service that our county helps provide, and we're so thankful for that. And it's an honor to do this. I want to thank Vice Mayor Marino for accepting the award on my behalf. So thanks, guys.
All right, and so we passed the Mobility Week proclamation. This week is Mobility Week. Thank you to those who joined us, Councilmember Nachlas, who joined us on our ride last Friday to kick that off. It's a statewide week the Florida Department of Transportation hosts and encourages local municipalities to also participate. There's a website with lots of events and ways to participate. As part of that, also this month through November 2nd, there's a Ride, Roll, Stroll challenge that folks can sign up for and win prizes, but the goal is to encourage folks to try other modes of transportation, such as riding transit, carpooling, walking, biking, even remote work helps. So I encourage you to participate if you haven't already. It's not too late to log your trips, potentially win some awards. So, and then we will be talking about this on the agenda, but we are kicking off our Transportation Alternatives Annual Funding Program. This is for non-motorized projects, safety projects on or off the system. And we'll be having a workshop for that on November 8th here virtually or in person to walk through the application process. So looking forward to receiving more applications this year, and that application window will run through Valentine's Day, February 14th, and we'll bring back what we received of those priorities that are scored to the board in the summer. So we're excited about that. We'll also be talking about the LRTP, that the draft is now out there. We're federally required to update it every 5 years. So we'll be voting on that in December. And we're happy to meet with anyone one-on-one to dive into the details further, walk through anything between now and then. Please reach out and let us know. And we're also, again, very grateful for everyone's participation in it. We've had really great participation throughout this process. And another reminder, Safe Street Summit. This is a regional event that's put on by the 3 MPOs in Southeast Florida. We haven't hosted it in person since 2018. We hosted it virtually in 2021. So it's our turn to host 2025, February 6th and 7th. The main days on February 7th at the Hilton West Palm Beach, in downtown West Palm Beach, mobile tours on February 6th. All of our board members and alternates are encouraged to register. We will be waiving the registration fees for boards and alternates. So please join us. Please show up for the region and for the TPA. It's a great event to continue to learn about best practice happening nationally. And we'll have national speakers. We'll also have Complete Streets Champions Awards, Community Awards, Project Awards, and those nominations are now open. So I encourage everyone to submit nominations for projects in your communities, for champions in your communities, and community awards. So just wanted to encourage you, if you haven't registered yet, please do. And then just a reminder, bicycle-friendly designations. Yesterday, actually, as part of our site visit with the airports, we learned that we've been working with the county and looking at how can we make Belvedere more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. But we heard from Laura Beebe, actually her assistant bikes from downtown West Palm Beach to the airport every day on their bike to get to work. So, and they have an issue now, not issue, but maybe it's a good thing. They have a lot of employees biking to work. And so they're looking at, we're going to be sending some ideas and some resources for them, but they were asking us, how should we handle employee bicycle parking? So maybe they become a bicycle friendly business, but just want to encourage our local municipalities, businesses to continue to look into ways to become more bicycle friendly. And lastly, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, please sign up for updates. And then also there's a lot of grant opportunities still out there, discretionary grants. Please continue to keep an eye on that. And we're happy to support if keep looking at those opportunities.
Great. Wow. Wonderful. All right. We have one card up. If you have any comments you want to add to the executive director's report, please put up your card. Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations to the award. Well deserved.
Thank you.
To our CEO, is there a status on the State Road 80 lighting? I know the last report we received that the work was supposed to start midsummer. So maybe if not this meeting, can we get an update on where we at?
Sure.
If
Yeah,
not-
they're still working on it. I don't know if anyone from DOT has a later update, but the timeline that we received, I think, is still the current timeline, even though we may not be seeing things like poles standing up. I know there's a lot of back work and underground work that's going on. So happy to follow up and provide that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a comment on the executive director's report? All right, let's move along to our consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they're pulling from consent today? All right, so I'd like a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. If you could mention your name and push twice on the microphone, good luck.
Greg Wise, and I would move the consent agenda.
Sir,
Fran Nachlas, second.
thank you. Excellent. All in favor?
Learning.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move right along to our action items. We're going to invite Andrew Euler, our Deputy Director of Programs, to present on the motion to adopt a resolution approving our Amendment 1 to the TPA's fiscal year 2025 to 26 UPWP. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. This is our first amendment to our Unified Planning Work Program. This covers fiscal years 2025 to 2026. So our Unified Planning Work Program is one of our major documents. This is our 2-year operational plan and budget. We just started operating under this in the current fiscal year of July 1st. And so in here for the entire document, you're going to see the what, who, when, and how much for each task that we have for planning activities for the TPA. This is also, we work on a grant reimbursement program, which is important to mention for this amendment. But basically, we perform the work and then we put the invoice to FHWA and AFDOT, and then they reimburse with our available federal and state funds. So in this amendment, there's 2 main items. The first one is one of the formula funds we receive is for FTA. And those funds come to us from the state. They receive the larger amount of state funds. They receive their larger amount of state funds statewide. And so all the metropolitan plan organizations received additional FTA funds. We received 81,000 additional FTA funds. Forgive me, the clicker's like going crazy. So that's why I handed it off. We're putting these additional funds that we have on corridor studies. There's a lot of planning work occurring within municipalities around the county that we're working towards this fiscal year. So the additional funds are added to that. And then the larger part of this amendment is going back to this grant reimbursement. So we're adding additional $1.2 million of our formula funds to use as our advancement, which we will then seek federal grant reimbursement for. Right now, we have 4 agreements with your municipalities, with 4 municipalities on the governing board for $300,000 each. And so once we have these funds, we can then use those federal funds for our float that we pay back every month with those federal reimbursements, instead of using the funds that we currently have locally through those 4 agreements. Next slide. So those are the 2 main items for this amendment, and I can take any questions.
Do we have any public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, any comments from the board? None? All right, so we'll move along to a vote. I'm seeking a motion and a second for the resolution approving amendment number 1 to the TPA's fiscal year 25-26 Unified Planning Work Program, please. If you could state your last name.
So move.
That would be Mayor Wilson, and our second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Woodward is seconded. Did we get that okay, Ruth? Okay, great. All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to our second action item. Are we okay? We're good?
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, so we're moving on to our motion to adopt the 2025 Transportation Alternatives Program Guidelines. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Chair Reed, members of the TPA Governing Board. Brian Ruscher, TPA Deputy Director of Multimodal, here today to present the 2025 Transportation Alternative Program Guidelines. Our clicker is wishing us all a happy Halloween and giving us some scary slide advancement, so hopefully we'll get through this just fine. Our Transportation Alternatives Funding Program is our annual funding cycle. We do receive an allocation of about $5.1 million to, can you advance the slide? We receive about $5.1 million every year to allocate on a funding cycle, which is shown in the graphic below. So to walk through some of the specifics and nuances of the program, these funds are eligible to fund on and off-road, non-motorized safety projects with a maximum available per project of $1.5 million. So these are not your larger major street reconstructions. However, they can help to fund things like bike lanes, crosswalks, new sidewalks, safe routes to school projects, and others. There is a minimum of $250,000 eligible for the project guidelines, and we do that to try to reinforce that we're trying to implement infrastructure with this program. So the timeline for how this works, it's a little bit more of an accelerated timeline than most of our other funding programs, which we've had in previous years, is that it's 3 years from the current fiscal year. So we have our application submittal deadline of February 14th, 2025. Projects are then ranked by the TPA governing board in July. Once projects are prioritized, the local government must start local design, the design of that project in fiscal year 26. So that's actually calendar year 2025, July. Funding will become available on July 1st of 2028 for construction. So that's why we have design coming up so quickly for these projects. These are the ones where you know that this is an issue, you want to get it done quickly. It's a small win for you and your community, but it could have a large impact in your transportation system. Next slide. As I'd mentioned before, the proposed program dates are for today. For us to kick off that program is for you all to approve those guidelines that are attached in the packet. We have a in-person and virtual workshop where we're going to do a deep dive into the application guidelines, as well as the FDOT grant application portal, where we'll go through how to submit, how to use our tools, and what previous projects have been successful. We do require that if you are going to go through this program as a municipality, that staff have a meeting with both the TPA and FDOT to ensure that the project scope is in line with the program activities. This is a reimbursable grant program. So if some of the things that you want to do as a city are not a reimbursable item, we want to make sure that those are captured and that the costs are differentiated between what's eligible and what's ineligible for reimbursement. Said before, the application deadline is February 14th, with the governing board prioritizing projects in July of 2025. Next slide, please. DOT does require that all applications go through the grant application portal. Municipal and county staff are very familiar with this and some of the guidelines that are required. We will be hosting, as I said before, our workshop on November 8th to go through what this process looks like, how the grants are funded, how the agreements are executed, whatnot, at that workshop. Next slide. The scoring criteria, you will see this if you have reviewed the backup, but they have not changed from last year. So you are approving the same guidelines that align with the goals, objectives, and performance measures of the TPA. They are broken down into 3 categories. What dictates the type of facility that you're improving? So whether you're doing a shared use path or a separated bicycle lane or a share on your streets, you will find that in the what category as well as with pedestrian activities. Where gets into activity, the geographic location of the improvements. So if we're talking about a traditionally underserved area or a location on the high injury network, those are the types of points that you would receive categorically for the where category, and the why is about the benefits from that particular project. So for example, if you have positive socioeconomic improvements in the area, or if you have environmental benefits that are coming from the project, those are reflected in those categories of why. Next slide, please. We do have a scoring application at palmbeachtpa.org/map, TA map, excuse me, where you can see some of the prioritized criteria that we use and get a sense of how you will score out against previous applications. So this is available to everyone. You can go in and see where the priority network is for pedestrian bicycle infrastructure, where your transit hubs are located countywide, where trails are located, regional parks, recreation centers, shopping centers. All of the criteria that you'll use to score is available in this scoring application. So we find it to be very straightforward. We use this map to go through and score. So you and the municipal and the county staff should be seeing the same scoring for projects. and a transparent way to rank the projects. Next slide. Just wanted to reiterate that there are no scoring changes. There has been minor text clarification changes within the document, nothing substantive though. None of the guidelines have changes. The only major element that we wanted to note is that if there is a project where there is concerns about public input for bike lanes and sidewalks, is that we will flag those for the review of the governing board at the ranking process. So next slide. We create a graphic every year, and we hope that you will take this slide and share it with your staff and say, please go and create multimodal and pedestrian and bicycle activities. And it's a reminder of some of the key important criteria that we have for funding the system. About $5 million available every year on and off road systems, pedestrian and bicycle facilities, as well as reminders about our funding workshop, which will be virtual and in person here at the TPA on November 8th from 9 to 11, and when applications are due. And I would like to close with a few inspirational pictures of things that we have seen and we have built together with our municipalities and our partners. So of course, we have Northeast 2nd Avenue in Delray Beach with very nice sidewalks, green bike lanes. We have the Dillman Trail in the municipality of Green Acres. This was a Safe Routes to School project that we celebrated the opening of last year. And lastly, the Clear Lake Trail, which TPA staff just joined with the city of West Palm Beach and did a bike ride last Friday. And if you haven't walked, bike, or seen this trail, it is an absolutely phenomenal addition to our county and the regional connectivity that it will have for trails into the future. I would strongly encourage you to get out to go ride it. It provides just absolutely stellar views of our amazing downtown. So with that, I would like to request a motion to adopt the 2025 Transportation Alternatives Program Guidelines.
Thank you, sir. We have one card up so far. We have Mayor Koretsky, and then after that, we'll have Commissioner Lambert.
Some may think this is not comment, but it's really not in the program. You had one slide that was showing a walkway with shade.
Yes.
Can you pull that slide up?
I believe one more back. Is it this slide here or is it?
No, it was looked like it was, might have been an elevated. You went through it pretty quick. It had the
Oh,
shade.
go back to the FDOT slide.
I just want to point out, learning from the town, so, these shade is becoming, the expected design for a lot of facilities. We're going back and upgrading all of our parks.
Mhm.
The reason I bring this up is on the backdrop of Hurricane Milton coming through. What we realized is, as we go forth, we're going to make sure that the designs for these are easy for our staff to take them down. So I just wanted to, if you hadn't really thought about that, I mean, because that could be a significant cost then when you don't think about that and then they get ripped up. So that is a design feature. I'm an engineer, so I'm sorry,
Certainly.
but we're going to make sure, because our staffs have to be the ones going down, taking them down. And to the degree that that's becoming the norm, the public even expects, I couldn't help myself but not point that out. I know it's not related to the program, but
Certainly.
but to the degree that those will be features that'll come forth, wouldn't want to invest in, I mean, just get a standard design that, pops off easy.
Certainly.
Thank you.
We've seen some of that design carried forward in the West Palm Beach downtown wayfinding. If you've seen the signs that are erected around downtown, those are actually light enough to where, a crew of 3 people can push them over and easily remove them. So we start to see some of that as it get incorporated into this. This is in Tallahassee, Florida, over Gaines Park.
Yeah, and it may be easy, but when you start adding up the numbers that our staff has to do, like,
It's-
they used to have to put shutters on our town hall. Now we don't have that anymore. We have Hurricane Windows, new town hall, but now we're creating a bunch of new work for them, in hurricane prep. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation, Brian, and to this board for working with the city of West Palm Beach. We're very excited at that beautiful project that we've been able to complete with these funds. I have a couple of questions. The first is, I'm curious, I believe in past that we've used all of these funds. Is there always more applicants than we have funds? Is that usually the case?
It varies from year to year. Last year, we did utilize all of the funds, but that we utilized the foreign funds with just 4 applicants. So if that gives you any impression of how competitive the program that is, this year I've spoken with prospective applicants about 7 projects. So we're going through a process now and evaluating which projects would be like preliminarily scored well, and then others which could be shuffled into maybe other project programs that DOT might have, such as the Highway Safety Improvement Program or the Recreational Trails Program. And those are similar funding sources. The timeframes might be a little different, but if there's a project need, we're going to try to work really hard to make sure that we prioritize it and that we get it, if not in the TA program, then in another program. So 7 projects would be a huge list for us to go through in TA, but we're happy to help find the funding if possible with our partners. So
Okay.
the funding is used. Never let
Thank
it
you.
go.
And you actually addressed my second question, was just about projects that don't get funded and what do you do with them? But I'm really pleased to hear that you work with those municipalities and organizations to make sure that they can be guided into another direction if possible, other funding is available. Thank you. Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Valerie?
Thank you, Brian, for the presentation. I wanted to also mention, Brian showed a couple of recent projects that were completed, but some of the projects you see hanging on our walls are projects that we funded through this program in all of our municipalities. And if you go to our website, /TA projects, you can see all the projects we've funded, and we try to get before and after pictures whenever possible. So it's a great program. And as Brian mentioned, last year we only had 4 applications, so everyone got funding. But if we have more than what's available, then we definitely try to find other ways to fund them. So thank you.
Excellent. I know personally, our City of Palm Beach Gardens has enjoyed a lot of TA grants. We put in 12 flashers on a really highly utilized pedestrian area and cycling area between our schools. We've put in, we're putting in more pathways. We're putting in a 2-way cycle track coming up soon on Burns Road, and that's with TA funds that our staff has done a great job with some really innovative work. So unbuffered bike lanes, I could go on. So I'm sorry. Yep, Commissioner Diaz. Thank you.
This is really great.
And it went off. Okay.
It's Halloween. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
haunting.
you.
Clearly haunting.
I just want to highlight something I've been working on that kind of relates to this, and I intend on.
Can we get a new mic for Commissioner?
And I intend on bringing these. So recently I've been helping students at Lake Worth Middle School. Thank you. Start a a science fair. And to my surprise, usually kids want to do like flying things or things that burn, things like that for their science fair projects. And to my surprise, 2 of the students wanted to take on the wonderful science of planning theory. And they're looking at the road that goes in front of Lake Worth Middle School, and they're specifically looking at how to make it safer. So I do intend on, using their project, if you will, and their recommendations, which are good so far, to hopefully apply for this. But because one of the things about the science fair is encouraging the students to take on a project that could also potentially lead to actual real world change, right? And like in this case. But I guess what I'm getting at is, even middle schoolers, we call them alternatives, right? But even middle schoolers really look at it as almost like a priority. It's not so much an alternative as much as that's their primary way of getting around. So they're very conscious about road safety, especially at Lake Worth Middle, because, well, as staff knows, when we did the walking safety audit there, it's a pretty adventurous walk for our kids to walk over I-95 and through a warehouse commercial district and all that stuff. So, we call it alternatives, but it really is the future. And it's exciting because we can do, I think, a lot of what would otherwise be considered low-hanging fruit to make safer options for people. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments from our board? All right, so I'm looking for a motion and a second to adopt the 2025 Transportation Alternatives Program guidelines.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the 2025 Transportation Alternative Program Guidelines.
Thank you, sir. And I'm looking for a second.
Second, Fran
All right.
Necklace.
Thank you. So we've got Bernard Necklace. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, we're going to move along to our information items. So we're going to have Andrew come back up to discuss the vision for the 2050 long-range Wait, oops, yes. Okay, is it yes? No?
I can get the introduction though. That's okay.
Oh, my mistake.
So
Okay.
this is our first full-on draft reading of our LRTP. I want to invite Stuart Robertson with Kimley Horn Associates, who's been our consultant on this. And he's going to provide that presentation. And then the final adoption is in December.
I'm so sorry. So I just want to reiterate, this is not an action item today. This is an information item. This will be coming back to the board. So, all right, I'm just going to hold all these microphones. Go ahead. All right, thank you. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Reed and members of the TPA Governing Board. My name is Stuart Robertson with Kimley Horn, supporting the TPA on the development of the 2050 Long Range Plan. You have seen several presentations from members of the LRTP over the last 18 months on the various stages. And as Andrew mentioned, we're now presenting the full-on draft report for your review and comment before coming back to you for adoption at your December meeting. Let me try the clicker. Yes, it's working. So the purpose of the LRTP is to meet federal and state regulations regarding the requirement that each MPO in the country have a living transportation document. It is updated by a major update every 5 years, but it is a continuous and living process in the sense that MPOs are able to make amendments to the LRTP as needed, as new projects or new project funding sources become available. It does guide the federal and state transportation funding that would be available for the Palm Beach TPA's planning area, and it serves as a pipeline for the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, which is the 5-year construction funding process for the LRTP. So only projects that are identified in the TIP as having dollars specifically identified to them are funded for construction. The LRTP starts with a 5-year TIP, but then goes beyond that for an additional 21 years out to the 2050 long-range planning horizon. So those projects that are identified in the LRTP would still have to go through a funding and feasibility process in order to eventually be included in a future 5-year work program. The LRTP team has conducted an 18-month public-facing process that started with a goal-setting initiative back in the summer of 2023. There was a call for projects process that was also very collaborative with the local agencies as well as with the State Department of Transportation that occurred last fall. The TPA conducted a needs assessment and scenario planning into 2024. And then the budgeting and prioritization process happened in the summer of 2024. And we're now bringing you the results of all of those processes in the full draft. So the TPA is responsible for planning for the entirety of the county, but can invest funds on the federal aid network, which are the lines shown in the magenta lines on this map. This slide also shows the urban area boundary updated to include the results of the 2020 census. So it's these magenta lines that would be available for potential funding for TPA attributable dollars. So the public outreach that's been conducted has been very extensive, and it includes what I call both a high touch and a high tech process. The high touch process are those outreach meetings that we have conducted. 18 public workshops were held, outreach presentations, individual stakeholder meetings and interviews that have resulted in the development of the plan. But the high tech portion of the plan has included several resources for people to participate in the process online without attending a meeting in person. There's been an online survey available through the TPA's website for people to provide comments and responses on how they feel the prioritization should work for transportation in the county. In addition, and for the first time ever, the TPA has conducted a statistically significant survey of all Palm Beach County residents as part of this LRTP. There's also been a public comment map available on the TPA's website where folks can provide input and ideas on projects that they would like to see included. And the results of that comment map are always available on the TPA's online project map. Now, I mentioned the statistically significant survey. This was conducted by the TPA at the beginning of the LRTP process, and it questioned residents both on community priorities, but also on transportation priorities. This slide presents highlights of the results of both the random sample survey of all Palm Beach County residents, as well as the TPA survey, where people could choose to participate. Anyone could choose to participate. So on the random sample survey, the number one community priority that was identified through that random sample survey was providing more housing that is affordable, followed by managing the county's growth and development. And interestingly, on the survey that people could choose to participate in on the TPA website, both of those were also the two top priorities, but managing the county's growth and development was identified by the people that were choosing to participate. The bottom section of this slide shows the highest transportation priorities that were identified through the random sample survey. Number one was addressing traffic congestion, followed by expanding service for people who are economically disadvantaged, and that's the work of the Transportation Disadvantaged Council. And then thirdly, traffic safety. So this was a big innovation of the Palm Beach TPA in conducting this type of survey for the LRTP. Previously, we have had surveys, but it was only people could choose to go and participate online. And it's possible that there's a difference in the opinions between people that are choosing to participate in the TPA process versus the random sample of the county's population as a whole. You've seen presentations on the goals and objectives at prior meetings of this board. So just to review, the 5 goals developed by the TPA for this LRTP are safe, efficient, connected, multimodal, and resilient. The projects that are identified for cost feasible projects are fitting into one of these or more of these buckets. I have some good news to report on performance targets. The TPA has been a leader in the conversation on performance targets at the statewide level with FDOT. And since the adoption of the previous LRTP, the state has adopted more stringent targets for performance measures here within Florida, including updating targets related to bridges in poor condition, person miles traveled on the interstate system that are reliable, meaning not congested, and person miles traveled on the non-interstate system that are also not congested. Call for projects process occurred during the second half of 2023 into 2024. The TPA received over 1,300 projects submitted by the state DOT, as well as the county and local municipalities as part of these call for projects. We've worked very closely with eligible agencies to ensure that they are participating in this process. And it's also a process that meets the federal standards for providing an open transportation planning process that all of the participants within the TPA process can see what projects are being proposed by agencies within the TPA's jurisdiction. In addition to the public process, the call for projects, we've also conducted a technical needs analysis that has identified projects that are consistent with the TPA's goals and objectives. So moving into the prioritization process, this is how the cost feasible plan was developed. On the left side of this slide, we show buckets related to the multimodal needs, which are all of the transportation needs that were identified as part of the technical analysis. as well as the project desires that were submitted by state and local agencies. Each of the projects went through a screening process that aligned with the goals and objectives that I presented earlier in order to arrive at 3 buckets for the implementation portion of the plan. The first is the cost feasible plan. The cost feasible plan are projects that would be anticipated to be able to be implemented with MPO attributable dollars, either through state or federal sources, between 2030 and 2050. The illustrative projects are projects that meet TPA goals and objectives, but funding through the typical sources is not expected to be available based on the revenue forecasting analysis. However, these projects could be implemented through things like discretionary grants or future funding sources becomes available. And then thirdly are the local desires. The local desires are currently ineligible for federal or state funding, but have been communicated to the TPA through that open process that the implementing agencies are desiring to implement those projects sometime by 2050. I mentioned that revenue analysis process, and this was something that we worked very closely with FDOT District 4, as well as the State Revenue Forecasting Office at FDOT Central in Tallahassee. And we've identified funding for the cost feasible plan through TPA program estimates, but also through the Strategic Intermodal System, or SIS funds, that FDOT has identified in their SIS Long Range Transportation Plan, which includes the Turnpike. State and regional discretionary programs. These are discretionary grants that the state sponsors that local agencies could identify projects to apply for funding. And then finally, operations and maintenance. FDOT is required by state statute to provide information related to funding for their operations and maintenance programs. These are things like resurfacing projects. And although the primary purpose of those projects is to resurface and restore the pavement of the roadway, local agencies have often worked closely with FDOT to be able to implement things like bicycle lanes through the resurfacing program. So we include those revenue estimates as well. Just a bit more description on the 3 different implementation buckets that we have identified. The cost feasible list, which does include projects that are would have revenue anticipated to be available through the TPA process by 2050, but it also includes studies as well. There was reference earlier to the US 27 feasibility study that is included in the cost feasible plan. And the illustrative projects, you can think of them as the unfunded desires plan, or the unfunded TPA desires. These projects could actually be cost feasible if a future discretionary grant is won by the local agency to implement those projects. And then the other local desires that are projects that, again, are not eligible for state or federal funding, but it's important to identify them in the plan so that we can have a transparent process. One of the local desires, or one example of a local desire, was the project that Mayor Koretsky was providing some input on earlier in the meeting. And that type of input is important to happen, and the TPA facilitates that type of input from the individual local implementation agencies. So there are some things that are new to the Vision 2050. This slide summarizes some of the new aspects that built upon the 2045 adopted LRTP. The first 3 bullets on this slide are directly related to the TPA's adopted Complete Streets Design Guidelines 2.0. There's also a new section on mobility on demand. We're seeing that many transportation delivery services are going more to an on-demand type of model. And so this plan for the first time identifies zones that the TPA would prioritize for mobility on demand. Working closely with Palmtran to identify a plan for express buses that have could be implemented. There's one example that was recently started by Palmtran of providing a commuter service to and from Port St. Lucie into Palm Beach County. Identifying intelligent transportation projects such as transit signal priority that can help buses move more efficiently within traffic congestion. Identifying freight activity areas where projects that prioritize the movement of goods can be identified. We've also, for the first time, identified an electric and alternative fuel corridor network for the funding sources that are starting to become available to support folks that are driving in cars that run on electric or other alternative fuels. And finally, the feasibility studies, not only US 27, but projects such as State Road A1A resiliency studies are highlighted and identified in the cost feasible section of the plan. So just to begin to wrap up the presentation and provide a little bit of a little more information related to how do we get our projects from cost feasible to on the ground? Well, it starts with adopting the LRTP in December, including that list of cost feasible as well as illustrative projects. And then the next step for an implementation agency would be to get their project onto the TPA's list of priority projects adopted by the TPA each fiscal year. That would indicate that the projects are prioritized by the TPA and ready to receive funding to go into implementation. Also, the Transportation Alternatives Program is another avenue for that. You heard Brian presenting on that earlier. And then once a project makes it onto the list of priority projects or has been accepted for grant implementation through TA, it would be ready to be adopted into the TPA's 5-year work program, the TIP. So this slide summarizes the schedule between now and adoption of the plan on December 12th. We are here at October 31st on Halloween, hearing the draft version of the plan. TPA staff want to communicate to everyone that they are available to meet during November. If you or your agency would like to schedule a meeting to discuss the plan with the TPA staff, they are available to do so. Several agencies have done this already following our presentation to the advisory committees earlier this month. Then in early December, we will go back to the advisory committees, asking them for a recommendation for approval of the document, and then coming to you at your December 12th meeting for adoption of the plan so that the TPA stays in compliance with federal and state regulations. So that wraps up my presentation. I and TPA staff would be happy to address any questions or comments that you may have on the draft document.
Okay, do we have any public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I don't see any cards up. There you go. Yes, sir.
Just a quick one. Just trying to understand the boundaries. Excellent presentation, by the way. It's the most thorough effort that
Thank you.
we've ever had. I'm grateful for that. But just getting my mind around the boundaries of what is in the plan, because you talked about, the interstate and then the non-interstate. So just the non-interstate, let's take Indian Town Road, includes intersections that are county and town roads. So does the intersection qualify?
An intersection project does qualify.
Regardless of whether it could be a county road or a town road.
Yes.
Okay.
And it could have been identified by the FDOT if it's one of their priorities, or it could have been identified by a local agency if they want to communicate it as a priority within the plan.
Okay, now just taking a step further than that. So in Indian Town, right now, there's a FDOT project because of mainline backup concerns. And so they're doing a project we're really grateful for. But so if there can be mainline backups due to interchanges with state roadways. So is there any way that would be then encompassed, because it does affect the backup on the main line? Something that's, maybe the first intersection coming off or something, any of the other roads that are at interchanges?
Just so I can clarify, are you referring to a project that would be on the local street but would connect to the state highway?
Well, no, I'm just saying if we just go up and down every I-95 at every interchange, right? Not all roads are state roads like Indian Town. I'm thinking further further south, actually outside of the town, but would those roads, to the degree that they impact the main line, get, or at least the section that can be shown too, does that then get encompassed into potentially something that fits here?
Yeah, if it's demonstrated that it can relieve congestion on the state highway system, that would meet prioritization criteria of the TPA in their plan. But it would have to demonstrate that it is relieving congestion on the state
Okay,
highway system.
thank you.
And FDOT does often invest, as you know, in those interchanges, not just to state highways, but to interchanges with local roadways as well.
Yeah, because inevitably the first traffic light in any one of those roads can be impactful to getting off I-95 or, on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Any other questions, comments, or cards up, aside from our executive director? All right, Valerie, please.
Thank you, Stuart. I wanted to just reiterate what I mentioned during the director's comments. We are going to work with FHWA and FDOT to better demonstrate, find a clear way to show, and whether that's potentially moving it into an appendix and stating other currently not supported TPA projects we received during this process for those other local desires that are not TPA priorities to clarify. So we'll be working on that between now and the next time you see this. But we do really appreciate everyone's time and effort. As you saw, we received over 1,300 projects from our local partners. And so in this process, this plan serves to direct state and federal funds, both TPA and discretionary funds. So it is important. Doesn't have authority over everyone's roadways, but we want to find a balance to display what we heard, be transparent about that, but also clearly differentiate what we are showing as the TPA's vision and plan and what are other things, FYI. So.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. And while we move, thank you so much for your presentation, by the way. And I also want to thank you and our staff for working so hard on the LRTP these last few years. I know it's a big lift. It is required. It's integral to running this TPA. So thank you all for all of your hard work. Yes, ma'am.
Follow up on that. Thank you. If I may follow up on that, I do want to give a huge shout out to Andrew Euler, our Deputy Director of Programs, and Melissa Ebel, as well as Brian Rusher, are on staff who have really stepped in. We had our LRTP coordinator leave in recently, and so we've really had to huddle and step in, and Stuart, our consultant as well, to bring this across the finish line. So thank you to everyone's participation, but also to staff and team for your hard work on this. And great job.
Thank you all so much.
I turned it off. There. Go ahead.
Hello. Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Chair.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you all.
So again, please, we encourage everybody November 1st to the 27th. Any concerns you have about anything on the LRTP, this is the time for your staff to reach out to the TPA staff to clarify all of the different projects, desires, and otherwise. So let's do that, because we'll see it back again in December, and our boards, our advisory boards will be seeing it on the 4th and 5th of December. Do we have any partner agencies that would like to present today?
No, Madam Chair.
No? Dave? Nothing? We always love to hear from you. I mean, everyone's still here. You may as well. It's nice that you're here today. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Madam Chair. I know Vice Chair Marino's online, and Executive Director Nielsen. Thank you very much. Dave Deck, Executive Director of SFRTA Tri-Rail. So I'll give some high-level updates. We have a tremendous number of projects in the works, but and my new chair. Sorry, we're very, very happy to have Chair Woodward with us. Couple of large projects we have. First, I guess I'll give you an update just operationally. We are still seeing a very, very strong ridership improvements. Depending on which week you look at, we are either leading the nation or among the leaders of the nation in ridership recovery, where we are, running anywhere from, 98% to 104% to 110% of pre-COVID numbers, which translates very well for us, as compared to some of our peers. We have a lot of, we have big projects in the works. One of the biggest one, and thank you very much, in partnership with the TPA, is our rolling stock procurement. I think everybody, most of you, I see a lot of you that ride Tri-Rail. I'm never surprised to see you at the station. But you know that our rolling stock is aged and needs help. So we do, we have a project, we have, funding from the TPA along with some federal funding and some other partnerships. So we're going to make about a $200 million purchase of rolling stock. We've done a lot of research and work in this last year. So you're going to start seeing that formally start moving forward as we've made some selections and we know kind of the things we want to do, partnering with some of the larger agencies in the country that will help us expedite that process. But it is still a multi-year process. It's 3 to 4 years minimum before you start seeing any, and sometimes longer before you start seeing that equipment coming. So we still have to work on the equipment that we have. We're about halfway through our Brookville locomotive overhaul. So we have 12 of those. We'll have the 6th one coming out of all overhaul here shortly. We've done the work on our cab cars. We're going to have a project that I'll take to the board here for our Bombardier cars. So as we continue to improve and try to bring that better ridership experience and better reliability is really where we need to focus. We're going to have a big project here on our stations. We have a significant fund to use and rehabilitate our stations to kind of make them more of a placemaker, more of a place people want to be. I mean, it's hard to look at our stations and say, yeah, I want to hang out here, because they're in disrepair. They look bad. And we're going to fix some of that. We're excited about that. And I think you've seen even if you drive 95, which you shouldn't, if you're on 95, you should be on our train. But if you do drive 95, you see the pedestrian overhead bridges, and some of them are in different states of repair. So we have 13 of those overhead bridges that are being rehabilitated. We are ahead of schedule on that project. We should be opening kind of a temporary opening of the Boca Bridge this week, where we're still waiting for some of the roofing, but we're securing that so that we can open it up and get people crossing across there. We have 5 of those bridges right now, and we'll keep moving down. And our goal is to keep that project ahead of schedule. We've been working very hard with our friends at CSX on the Northern Layover Facility, and we think we've come to some agreement. So we just went to our board with some modifications to our design to accommodate some requests that CSX had. So we should be coming really here end of this year, maybe very early of next year, to be at 90% design and really start to progress that project that has been much anticipated and a great project here, courtesy of the TPA. I think that's enough.
Well, that's quite a lot considering.
Yeah,
we-
thank you
we
very
made them
much
up.
for
Thanks.
for having me. Appreciate it.
We
Thank
do
you.
have a card up, sir, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
yes.
Thank you for that update. So I know is it working? Yep. So I know we always plug, and it is true, because this past weekend I was riding on the Tri-Rail to the Miami airport, and I was standing there in the morning, and there I see Dave Deck walking up. And I'm like, oh my God, this is great. Fancy meeting you here.
And I'm
But
like,
I
"Please
also
let the
want
train be on time, please."
I'm the one that'll text them, "Brr, it's so cold in this train today." Oh God, I'm dying over here. No. So good, bad, and the ugly, we give it all. But I also wanted to plug the train to also Fort Lauderdale Airport. So a lot of us, and Dave Deck taught me how to take that up to Fort Lauderdale from our Yamato station, and there's a bus that's on a loop. So we can also take it to MIA, but if you're going to Fort Lauderdale, take the train and also educate other folks. It's our job, as we sit on this governing board, to educate the people. When I tell people that I ride Tri-Rail, they look at me like, why? And I'm like, why not? So I always post, I always make funny things. People make fun of me that you love trains, like anything with a train, she's happy to see it go by and she claps or whatever. But it's not a joke, it's the truth. It's the mobility that we're trying to encourage. So I just want to give you a shout out to that. I also wanted to congratulate Ms. Woodward on her appointment. I know you're going to do great things, and ride the rail. And thank you. Thank you for all the improvements.
Yeah, I missed my plug for $5 all day on the weekend. $5.
$5.
Right, all day on the weekend for $5.
All right, we have another card up from your chair, Commissioner Woodward, and then Mayor Koretsky.
Thank you. If you could, because when I got on the train yesterday, the Boca, Louis, we were
Oh,
were talking
it,
about the express train, and I was
It's
just wondering, could
doing-
you give an update on, we started July 1st, and could you give us an update on that?
Yes, you met a couple people. Brent
Brent,
at,
I love
I think
Brent.
everybody knows Brent at Boca. Brent's the security guard at Boca and he runs a tight ship there. He's great. Yeah, we have the express train pilot that we've been running here for several months. We saw strong, out of the box ridership. It's kind of plateaued, where it's really into where our other, peak trains are. But we're going to continue to advertise and continue to push it and see if we can bring some people over to give that train a try. And then we'll eventually here, probably the next 2 months, we'll start to survey some people and say, are the times wrong? Because, we some of it we're constrained by when we can run it because we only have certain windows that we're allowed, on the FEC, but that doesn't hurt to ask. But it's been very well received. The parking lot at Boca is full. Which is a good problem, and it's a problem. So we have the pilot for the express trains. We also have the later in the evening trains that we're running, which was a very good, when we were at the airport yesterday, they're going to make another blast out to all of their employees because that was really who those trains were geared towards. And travelers are great. But employees go 5-6 days a week. And a lot of them wear uniforms and, so it's always good. So we're going to make another shot because that ridership on the evening trains has been pretty disappointing. But we're not going to give up on it. We're going to go back and remarket it to the people who we were intended it for to see if we can get an increase in ridership on that.
All right, Mayor Koretsky.
To that last point, and you talked about the ridership. Tri-Rail's been around so long that, and if I compare them to like Brightline has really been focused on interconnectivity to improve ridership. And I wonder whether or not Tri-Rail, that'd be an opportunity for Tri-Rail. Maybe you're doing it, right? But you've been around so long, you don't want to just go back to pre-COVID, but really somehow expand. Maybe there's some learnings to have from what Brightline's doing that could help Tri-Rail.
Well, I watch very closely what Brightline does, and we've have a lot of, first mile, last mile partnerships that we do with the Uber, Lyft and taxis to try to help people come here. We partner with Brightline on some of the marketing to go into Miami Central. But yeah, I think we're getting to the point where we can responsibly expand and try some different things. What I think we needed to do here was level set and bring ourselves back to where we needed to be so that we can go and then ask for, because all those things cost money, ask for funding and things so that we have the opportunity to expand and bring in new riderships. Because I quite frankly, if I never say pre-COVID again in my life, I'll be happy. I want to just quit looking back in the rearview mirror and look forward and then just take that ridership numbers and never have to reference that again.
Thank you, sir. All right, Valerie.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Dave Deck. We're so grateful to have you here as a partner, here today, but just as a partner in our region, as a partner as SFRTA at Tri-Rail. You guys are doing an amazing job. The amount of, I don't know the numbers by heart, but the number of windows you've replaced, the cleanup, the security. 789 new windows on the trains. You're just a huge impact and upgrade on the system. It's really fantastic, and you're such a great partner. And I just want to reiterate that when we do this thanks to the site visit we did yesterday with Dave and SFRTA down to the Miami Intermodal Center, this future site visit that we're going to plan for the Port of Palm Beach, we'll be taking Tri-Rail down into Miami, which is a new direct connection, hopefully on the new express train down there, limited stop train. And so that'll be an opportunity for more board members. If you haven't rode Tri-Rail, some of the folks on our, not board members, but some of the folks in our site visit yesterday was the first time riding Tri-Rail. So if you still haven't rode Tri-Rail, and if you haven't rode the new connection into downtown, please join us. And so that you can be like some of our board members and help spread the word and raise awareness about what a great service it is. And I can't even imagine after riding it yesterday, driving that. So it was a stress-free ride. Thank you.
Yeah, I went back down to Miami yesterday and I told somebody I'm 15 miles and 45 minutes away. So I mean, it's just the traffic there's not getting any better. And that, that express train is really a good service. It's, it originates here in West Palm, stops at Boca, stops at the Fort Lauderdale Airport, stops at Metro Transfer, and then right into Miami Central. It eliminates about 40 minutes of what our normal commute time would be.
Excellent. Well, personally, having lived here my whole life and taken Tri-Rail when I was younger and taking it now, the difference you've made as leaders is noticeable. So we really appreciate it. The changes are notable and we're proud. So thank you so much. We hope you continue
I'm
your good work.
blessed with a good team.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
You bet. You bet. Anything else? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. We're moving on to our administrative items. They are provided as information only for our board. There are no staff presentations on these items unless requested. They were in your agenda as well. Do we have any public comment regarding our administrative items?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. So don't forget, we'll see everybody back on December 12th. And with that, we are adjourned.